Hey everybody, Punisher88 here, coming to you live with the weekend review. So for today's review, I decided to go with an older book from my collection. And when I say older book, don't expect a Avengers #1 or an Amazing Fantasy 15 or anything like that. I'm not that lucky. I wish I was, but I'm not. The older books in my collection usually consist of stuff from the mid to late 70s, early 80s. So, the book I chose is an issue #1. It is her first appearance, and I believe it is one of the last books Stan Lee actually did writing on. So you know it's a Marvel book. And I'm not sure how desirable or collectible this book is, but I'm happy to have it because I only paid like $2 for it at a flea market, where I've seen this book going from anywhere to 25 to almost $40 on eBay. So yeah, and I've heard and seen this book mentioned quite a bit in comic book conversations and stuff like that. So, not to keep you guys in too much suspense, but I'm sure you're wondering what book I'm talking about. Well, for today's review, you guys are getting The Savage She-Hulk #1. So, now that you guys know, sit back and I'll be right with you. But first, cue that intro music. Welcome back. So as I mentioned in my intro, today I'm reviewing Savage She-Hulk #1. And for those of you who follow my reviews in my channel by now, know I like to start with the cover first. So let's check it out. Right off the bat, I love this cover. Why? Because John Buscema did the artwork on it, and he's one of my favorite Marvel artists. The second reason why I like it is the whole representation of innocent Jen and her alter ego, She-Hulk. And with everyone running around in the background for their lives, it all ties together very well. The story itself is pretty good. I liked it. I don't know why I've waited this long to read it. I mean, I know She-Hulk's origin story, but, I figured I've had this in my collection long enough. It's about time. And, for this being one of the last series Stan Lee wrote on, the writing's pretty good in here. It's not like his '60s stuff where it was really cheesy and whatnot. The writing in this book is pretty darn good. And from what I loosely saw online, I think Stan Lee's very last actual writing in a comic was in a Silver Surfer comic. I think it was around '82 or something. So if you guys were wondering, now you know. The story plays out really good. I mean, you have Bruce Banner. He comes to see Jen. They haven't seen each other in a long time, so they're chit-chatting and everything. And finally, Bruce explains that she's the only one who could help him. So Jen Walters is like, well, what did you do? So then we see Bruce. He tells her, it's not what I did, it's who I became. And he explains the whole gamma bomb experiment, how he became Hulk, and whatnot. So then finally, they're leaving her office, and she explains to Bruce that she'll help him. And as they're leaving, she's explaining to Bruce about this case, about this guy named Trask who she has to defend, even though she knows he's guilty, blah, blah, blah. And we see these henchmen following them. Well, they follow her to her place. As she gets out of her car, they shoot her. And this is where everything starts getting interesting. Bruce kicks into action, beats up the bad guys, doesn't Hulk out, but he beats up the bad guys, and now he's like, oh my god, I gotta save her. He goes, I need to get her to a doctor. Well, this part of the book is where I found the one real cheesy aspect of it. Luckily for Bruce, right across the street from Jen's place is the home of a doctor. So anyway, he grabs Jen, breaks into the house, and while that whole thing's going on, I like how they wrote it because you see Bruce break in. He's freaking out because Jen's life's in danger, and the way it was written, it's good because while all this is going on, Bruce can Hulk out at any time. So we see his struggle of trying to keep his composure. So it was pretty neat. Anyway, he gets Jen on this doctor table, and we finally see the scene of the famous blood transfusion. He gives her his blood, he saves her, she starts coming through, and she's like, "Oh my God." Bruce is like, "Oh, thank God, she's okay." He calls the cops. When she's fully awake, we see her being put into an ambulance, and the cops have Bruce like in custody in the house. And they're like, "You're not going anywhere. You're a suspect." Blah blah blah. Well, anyway, the cops walk out of the room, and Bruce is like, "Whoa, wait a minute. If these guys interrogate me too much, they're going to find out who I am." So we see this little panel, and he starts to Hulk out, and he busts out of the house. And then we see the next morning, we see Bruce reading the newspaper. He finds out Jen's going to be okay, and that's the last we see of Bruce Banner in the comic. Then it kicks over to Jen. We see her recuperating in the hospital, and we see these doctors walk in, and we find out that they're not really doctors. They're the guys who were sent to kill her. And she's like, "You're not my doctors. Who are you?" And they're all like, they start roughing her up, and they're all like, "You ask too many questions," and blah blah blah. And then finally, we see them get thrown across the room, and we see She-Hulk appear in the comics for the very first time. Scary looking, but cool as well. And because I forgot to mention, not only did John Buscema do the artwork on the cover, he did the artwork for the whole book. So it's cool. So then we see, she hulks out, and the henchman guys are all like, "Oh," one of them's like, "I'm not scared of you," and she basically throws a hospital bed at him. So they run out of the room, and they're running away, and she hulks all like, "Oh no, I'm not letting these guys get away." So they run into an elevator, and she rips the doors open, jumps down the elevator shaft, and there's this whole crazy scene going on here. See, rips the doors open and everything, crazy stuff. So then they run out of the hospital, and she's all like, "Oh, you can't stop She-Hulk," and she's like gone berserk. Where finally she catches the guys, rips the car door off because they try to make their getaway, rips the guy out, and finally he spills the beans. He's all like, "Trask only hired us to kill Jen because of the whole this murder trial thing, whatever." Cops arrive. She throws the guys at them. She goes, "Oh, they're your problem now." Then the last panel of the page, you see she goes, "I feel my strength fading," which means her anger is subsiding. So she runs back to the hospital, goes back into the hospital room next door to where she was because she trashed her old one. Nurse comes in. She's all like, "Oh, Jen, what are you doing in here?" She goes, well, she throws a lie at the nurse. She's like, "Well, with all the commotion, I had to get away." And the nurse is like, "Well, everything will be back to normal now." And then that's where we see in the last panel, Jen's like, she realizes with the blood transfusion she got from Bruce, turned her into the She-Hulk. And she's like, from now on, any job Jen Walters can't do, the She-Hulk will do. And then it goes, and so the saga starts, and we see, the title for the next book. So all in all, it's a great book. If you guys can find the single issue, pick it up. I don't know how much it would cost at your shop if they do back issues. Like I said, I was lucky. I got it at a flea market for $2. But if you don't feel like hunting down the actual book, try and find it in a She-Hulk trade or something. I'm sure you could find it. So all in all, do I recommend this book? 2 thumbs up. Go find it. Or if you guys do the digital thing, try finding a digital copy of it. I couldn't tell you if one exists because I don't read digital books. But anyway, so that brings me to the end of the review. I hope you liked it. I kind of zoomed through it, so sorry if I went fast. One thing before I leave you guys for the weekend, I wanted to mention again, I know I mentioned it in my last video, I was thinking of starting a new segment, and this is all based on what I hear from you guys. Every month, I don't know if I'm going to do it monthly or weekly of every month, I'm thinking of doing a little backstory origin on the first appearance of either a Marvel or DC hero or villain character. So let's say for January, I would pick a character who made their first appearance in January and give you guys a little backstory or whatever on that character. So I haven't fully decided yet. I'm waiting to hear some responses from you guys, the viewers. If you'd like to see that, uh, leave me a comment in the comments below. And if I get enough of them, well, I'll get my acting gear and start doing some research for you guys. Alright? So, I hope you guys stuck around for this almost 9-minute video. I hope you guys have a great weekend. And, well, actually, this is the main video, so it's probably like 10 or 11 minutes long, including the intro. But anyway, so yeah, I hope you guys have a great weekend. Hope you guys get some cool geeky goody stuff this weekend, comics, whatever. And I'll see you guys on Thursday. All right? So, in the words of the great Art Spiegelman, remember, boys and girls, comic books are the gateway drug to literacy. Yes, I love it. Anyway, so that's it for me. This is Punisher88 signing off. Laters, guys.